Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of This Feral Life Podcast. Today's episode is going to be about preparedness. It's just kind of a general preparedness, for the small things that happen in your life. And I'm going to go ahead and just put like hurricane is small.
Depends on the size.
Hurricanes are big, but I would call them small because hurricanes never snuck up on anybody, right? Like it's. You see it coming a week away, and it moves at a brisk walking pace for an elderly person. It's moving at 5 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Coming from a week away, you should have plenty of time to get out of the way, right? So, and you see people that want to stay behind. I get it, like, I'm gonna protect my stuff. Take your stuff with you. You have a week. I could move an entire school in a week.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
You've moved us in about a couple of hours before.
Yeah. Like a whole farm.
Yeah, you're like an ox.
It's like just get your horse trailer or borrow something and throw all your expensive stuff in there and drive it somewhere where it's
away.
In the general direction of away.
Of away.
Right? And that's usually north. The whole preparedness thing. Let's talk about this. So, basically, the more people something affects, the less likely it is to happen. So you're more likely to break your leg, say, and that's supposed to be a personal preparedness like emergency, than you are to have a comet land on your head, right? Or to have an accident, like a car accident or something like that, because that affects maybe 4 or 5 people, than say a volcano to erupt, right? So you got to start preparing for the small things. And one of those is like financial preparedness. And it's a very often overlooked part of preparedness is that I am under the impression that one paycheck should cover your bills. So if you get paid 2 times a month, one paycheck should be able to cover all of your bills. So you should have that free paycheck that you're able to save or invest or, pursue your extra hobbies with or,
ideally.
Yeah.
Ideally. That's not the case for a lot of people these days, but ideally, that's the way it should be.
Yeah. And you can kind of work towards getting there just so that if something bad does happen, you have some savings. Under ideal circumstances, you should have, at least, a month to 2 months worth of bills covered in your savings account. So that if something happens to the breadwinner of the house or one of you, that you have that money that you can draw upon until their leg gets better, they can start gimping around and go back to work, right? Or if you have to pay a deductible on a car insurance or something.
Right.
Because they were saying that, I was reading in the news that the average American would have a hard time dealing with an unexpected $400 bill.
I believe it. I mean, groceries are 3 times what they were 2 years ago.
Oh, at least.
And salaries don't seem to be moving in the same direction.
There's been a lot of what's called stagflation with that.
Yeah.
Where everything gets more expensive except the salaries.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's pretty crappy.
Yeah. I actually heard a news story or a mother commenting on, back in the 80s, 90s, when your kids graduated from school, it was flight or fight, right? Like there was time to leave the nest. Like you kids go and survive and live and get your jobs, and you yeeted them out. You basically, right? You're like, peace, I'm done. But that was just the way it was, right? That's the mentality that the children leave the household at a certain age and they start building their own lives. But this mother had a good point. She's like, how am I going to send my kids out and do that to them? She's like, these aren't the same times that our parents had an experience. The same middle class isn't what it was, 10 years ago. So
There's
she,
been a big narrow
so she felt really guilty about it. Yeah. So what she did is she purchased land and she made and built little tiny homes for all her kids. And I thought that was amazing. And that's something that I look forward to doing that.
I still get free slave labor.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they'll help. I'm sure they'll help with the household and the yard and stuff like that.
That's basically why you have children, right? It's
right.
Just because they're tiny slaves.
Yeah.
Their little tiny hands can really get in there and clean the dishes well.
Ours really enjoys just doing things with us. But I mean, I can't imagine like telling her at 18, like, "Hey, go conquer the world," and a price for an apartment is nowhere near what she could pay for working at.
Well, you can in the ghetto, but
Yeah, but in the
lose a
ghetto, then you
kidney.
sacrifice your safety. Like it's not worth it. So
Yeah.
to me, I really am looking forward to building her a tiny home on our land. Whether she wants to stay or not, or that's her prerogative, but at least she always has somewhere to go.
With the plans for the my what do you call it? What did we decide to call it? The
tree house
slash deer stand.
You want to use it as a deer blind.
Yes, but I mean it's gonna be bougie. It'll have like air conditioning
Yeah.
and stuff in there because But I imagine that she'll just move into that thing.
No, we'll build her
Oh,
a
we'll
really
see
nice.
what happens
Yeah,
with
of
her
course.
teens. I bet
Yeah.
she gets angry as I'm just gonna go live in the deer stand slash tree house.
Go for it.
The
Go for it, kid.
tree stand house, the standing house.
That's totally fine by me. But yes, let's talk about small event preparedness.
Yeah.
So, what are your recommendations? And which yesterday I heard the coolest story ever.
What?
Shout out to Waffle House.
Waffle House.
Waffle House.
The
Sponsor
Wafflehouse
us.
Index.
You'll get stabbed by day, but it is a safe storm haven by night, or in
Other way
a
around.
hurricane or
Other way
something.
around.
Yeah.
You're stabbed by night. but
Stabbed by night.
Fed during the day.
Yeah. So apparently, like Waffle Houses, are extremely prepared. They have their own water sources, their own generators, their own food supply,
Their own rescue team.
yeah, their own rescue teams. They repurpose the trucks for moving food across everywhere and helping. And FEMA looks to Waffle House for advice on preparedness, which blew me away. So if you are in an area where you're experiencing any type of natural disaster, any type
And
of
Waffle
weather
House
issue,
closes.
and the Waffle House closes, you're screwed. You're screwed.
GTFO.
GTFO. But if there's a Waffle House, look for it, find it. That is a safe haven for you to go to.
So basically, they have as far as I was looking at the same stuff. I think I was the one who told you about the Waffle House.
You did, and I thought it was the coolest story because I'm
But-
always talking mess about the Waffle House and not wanting to get stabbed there and shanked. But I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go there during a storm now.
So they have basically business as usual,
Yeah.
right, which is normal.
Right.
And then they have like a alert, which is like, hey, we're gonna be really paying attention. This is what we're gonna do. Then they have a limited menu, where they only have like maybe one side of the menu or like is open.
Right.
And then they have like where they're only allowing people to drive up and get food and go.
Okay.
And then they're closed. And it takes a lot to close a Waffle House.
Are those 24 hours?
Yes.
Now?
Yeah, they're
Okay.
all 24 hours. And it takes like a ridiculous act of God to close a Waffle House.
Yeah.
During the last Category 5 hurricane, they were closed for 8 hours.
Wow. Yeah. Some Waffle Houses are closed, but that's because of employment issues. Like, they can't find anybody to work for them.
They actually pay really well.
Yeah. But
they as far as a little diner job, they actually pay really well. Locally, they're paying $25 an hour, so they're actually paying pretty deep. That's why people are willing to risk the overnight shanking.
yeah.
To work at Waffle House.
Well, I mean, it really changed my perspective on Waffle House for sure. So kudos to you guys for taking care of your local communities. That's
Sponsor
really
us.
awesome. Sponsor us, Waffle House. Love your pancakes.
They have waffles.
They have waffles. I mean, where can you go wrong? Like waffles and
Yeah.
sausage and coffee during a storm. Like, heck yeah, count me in.
So let's talk about things you can do just that are simple. So just get a backpack. Get a backpack, one for everybody in your family.
Bug out backpacks.
Yeah, just a grab and go kit. You're only aiming for 72 to 3 to 4 days supply of stuff. And in this backpack, you're not necessarily trying to provide 100% of everything that you need for 3 to 4 days. You're just trying to supplement what you'll be able to find or what you'll be able to get at a shelter, or if you have to go to a shelter or something, right? So you're gonna just look in there, throw in any prescriptions you got. So if you're on prescription medicine, something like that, definitely important to get in there. A couple of easy food items, nutrition bars, Water's really heavy.
Yeah.
You know, it's bulky and it's very, very heavy. But it's having, a liter bottle of water in each one, or a Camelback you can fill up in each
Or a
one.
pack of waters that you just grab from your garage and yeet out into your vehicle.
Yeah, that's great. That works out really, really well. But then from there you want to go and get a couple pairs of socks, some underwear, some clothing, but sturdy clothes.
Yeah.
You don't want to go out there in swim trunks. No matter what it is, flooding, you definitely don't want to do that. And maybe a change of shoes, like some Crocs or flip flops or something, so that if you do get the shoes or boots dirty, you can change out of.
I would say some Crocs would probably be the.
Let your feet air out of it, right? So I call my Crocs my tactical Crocs.
Yeah, tactical Crocs.
They're tactical simply because they're on my body.
Yeah.
Yeah, I make them tactical.
What is that when you move the little latch in the back of your Crocs? What do they call that? Like sport mode.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
They're normally forward.
See, that's what I'm thinking. If you're in a situation like that, like floppy flip flops might not be the ideal, selection, but definitely Crocs where you can go into sport mode and they're also breathable for your feet and they're comfy. They feel like pillows. They're not the best looking, but it'll do.
Having a few candles and a lighter, a Bic lighter, stuff like that will work out really well for you. Yeah, just like a Bic lighter. I see a lot of people that are talking about, I'm going to take flint and steel and all these other things like a fire.
Why?
I'm like, why? When you could get like a 25 pack of Bic lighters for like $20 on Amazon, or cheaper than that if you buy the off-brand ones. And I'm like, well, maybe you want to go LARP making fire, but that's something to do in your backyard, right? Like the Bic lighter. Well, what happens when my Bic lighter breaks? I've got 25 of them, right? Like they take up like a deck of cards, right? There's very little space. So speaking of which, throw in a deck of cards, throw in a couple of candy bars, throw in
a book.
Throw in a book. I throw in some antacids, anti-diarrheal medicine. Just go to, if you really want to get serious, you can go to the travel section of like Walmart and buy a whole bunch of little things in there. Like little travel toothbrushes, little travel bars of soap, the little travel hand sanitizers, a whole bunch of stuff, and just throw it all in that backpack. Like once again, you're not going. This isn't like a bug out for everywhere backpack, right? This is a power's going to be out in my area for a couple of days because the transformer blew, and I'm going to go stay at my mom's house or your grandma's
or the hotel house. Somewhere.
Just comfort stuff. You're taking comfort stuff and just the stuff to get there and to hang out there for a little while. And that should just be like your grab and go bag. I would say another thing is that I would have a 50 caliber ammo can that I would, because you can buy those for really cheap. Like from the used, even Amazon.
The surplus stores has them.
The surplus store, they're like $6-7 a piece. Amazon, they're proud of them. They're like $20. But if you just go to the surplus store and get a 50 caliber ammo can and put all of your important paperwork in there, right? Like the deed to your house, your marriage certificate, the kids' birth certificates,
socials, passports,
a new bank, your most recent bank statement, things like that, right? That allow you to prove that hey, I had this and this is what this was at some point. So that if something really bad happens, like a fire is threatening your area, you can go into your safe, grab that, and not have to be hunting around searching for everything, right? Everything's all in one spot, and you can just grab that, grab your go bags, and run out of the house. I would go and say that in your little 50 caliber ammo can, is that I would take a just like a regular. Do even people have regular cameras anymore? Not film cameras, but digital cameras.
I'm sure, camcorders, little camcorders. I don't know.
Yeah, but everybody uses their phone. But if you can find, borrow, or buy one for really cheap, just a little digital camera, put in an SD card, and take a picture of everything in your house. Clean your house real nice, right? And then just one day take a picture of everything in your house. It's the TV. This is the Xbox. This is the sofas. This is everything like that. Then have it saved to that little card. Put that little card in a little protective case and throw that card inside there. That way, when it comes time to argue with your home insurance or your rental insurance, you have a time date stamp saying that I owned all this stuff. Because what happens with those insurance companies is they just go, oh, you have a 2-bedroom apartment. We assume you have a TV. We assume you have blah, 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 blah. We're just going to write you a blank, like everybody the same check. And you're like, ha, I have much nicer things than my neighbors, and I have a way to prove it. And this was a, like a trick given to me by an insurance guy, as that he was like, you'll see your payout go up 50% if you have proof that you had those things. So, yeah, that would definitely help. Throwing some stuff in your car is a good one,
I would say have a dedicated tote in your garage, just store it away and just grab that sucker and put it in your car when it's time to use it.
We have the camping tote.
Yeah.
Our little camping tote, it has it has a couple of sets of cookware in it. It's got a coffee pot in it. It's got a bunch of flashlight stuff, a bunch of light stuff. It's got I
think it has our ham radios in it. It's got a little bit of medicine. It's got
over-the-counter stuff.
Bandages, all kinds of stuff.
First aid kit.
Yeah.
And it's just the same one that it's all the stuff that we would out some cookware, some paper plates, some napkins. And it's just got all the crap that we would normally have to scramble at the last minute or stop by Walmart on the way out of town to pick up. But we have it in one of those big black totes with the yellow lid. And the purpose of it is that so if we want to go to the beach, we can just grab the camping tote. We know that it's got a kitchen in it.
Basically, yeah, everything we need.
Everything we need in there to make food and be comfortable with it. So, and that's worked out really well for us in the past. So if we needed to evacuate somewhere, we grab the ammo can of fancy stuff, everybody's backpack, and the camping tote, and throw it in the truck and rock and roll.
Yeah.
And then
rather than just driving aimlessly somewhere, have a plan, already know a destination. If you are a city that's prone to hurricanes or anything like that, that those events there's going to be a percentage of the chance of it happening. So have a plan. Okay, well, if that happens, we're going to drive inwards or we're going to drive north towards this place. We're going to stay here at this. You already know the rates. You've already scoped it out. It's safe. It's in a good area, and you're safe from the storm. Just have a plan.
Yeah, throw in some extra during if you're in a hurricane area. It would not be a bad idea to never let your gas tank get below 3/4 full.
Oh, I'm terrible at that, and I get yelled at all the time for it.
I yell at you all the time.
I know.
Every freaking time I have to borrow your car or something like that, it's the lights on.
It drives everybody crazy. I do.
The driveway.
I do.
On the freaking wing and prayer.
I'm terrible.
And you wait till somebody's like, I need to borrow the car to go and do something because you parked in a way that's easiest to get your car out. And you're like, yeah, sure.
And it's not that I don't have the resources to fill up. This is the problem, and I've explained this to several people recently, actually. They're like, why don't you ever fill up your whole full tank and you're always having to put gas all the time? And I was like, because I'm normally always late to everywhere that I need to go. So I don't have time. Fault. Exactly. That is my fault. I can get up 4 or 5 hours ahead of schedule and still manage to be late. I have no idea why. I don't know what's wrong with me. I've been like that my whole life.
Distracted.
I do. I get distracted. I start doing things. And anyway, so I'm normally always running late. So I just want to wet my whistle and get there. I don't have time to stand there and fill up my whole tank for a whole 10 minutes. So there. That's that. I know. And it's terrible. So I'm trying to get better, guys.
Yeah. We got to get better. Having some I'm not a big fan of MREs or the knockoff MREs. Just from being in the military and having eaten them, I'd have to say that 0 out of 10, definitely not my favorite thing in the entire world. And our daughter's over there is saying, jump like a helicopter, whatever that means. Yeah, just having a gas tank just there at your house, couple of the 5-gallon gas cans would not be a bad idea. I know that we've had to put the lawnmower fuel in your car a couple of times to make it to town. So, because you coast in and it says
I'm terrible.
4 miles to E and we're 17 miles to town.
You just keep on beating the dead horse. I know it already.
It's just like, it's so frustrating. But anyway, you're getting better, which is great. Let's see. Putting, in your car kit, you should have a couple of cans of Fix-A-Flat. Mm-hmm. So they comes in a whole bunch of different sizes. Don't get the small size. Always get the one for a truck. All right? Because the one for a car will not fill up a car. It will not fill up inflate a car tire.
Yeah.
It will inflate a car tire to look flat. But if you get like the truck one, the full size one, that you'll be safe to drive on your car for a while until you get somewhere you can add extra air. So definitely a couple of cans of Fix-A-Flat.
Maybe a map.
Dude,
I think people forget about those maps
these days.
It's just it blows my mind.
I'd be surprised. Our listeners are pretty smart, but even with that, I'd be surprised if 50% of our listeners could, within 30 seconds, find their hometown. Like, people don't know how to read a map nowadays. Not because Google's messed that all up for everybody. Google Maps. Because you can just and it tells you where to go too. Like, so you don't even have to think. You just all right, turn. It just turns people into little automatons. People don't remember phone numbers anymore. So having a little book written with everybody's phone number, written down in is probably a pretty good idea. Part of the preparedness, if you have children, is making sure your children know their freaking names. Mm-hmm. Know their parents' names, not just mom and dad. In EMS, there's been many times where we have a 10 or a 12-year-old kid, and we ask them, all right, who's your mom and dad? Mom and dad. Okay, what are their names?
At 10?
Yeah, what are their names and where do they work? I don't know. Okay, that's great. What's your mom's first name? Mom.
Wow.
They don't know.
Our 4-year-old knows our names.
Yeah. So, and then they don't know a phone number. They can't tell you where to go. They can't tell you grandma and grandpa's first names, or if they have the same last name. But boy, they can log onto their social media and hand you the phone and, hey, there's everybody right there. And then you just message them and, hey, I have your child. We found it. It was running around wild. We tried feeding it. It's bitey. Probably has rabies. Come get it. So, it's stuff like that, man. I mean, but throwing in, as far as snacks, throw in it like the Gatorade right there. You have a case of Gatorade.
Yep.
It's cheap. Right now, it's what'd you pay, $6 for that thing?
Mm-hmm.
There's, a dozen of them there?
Yeah.
There's 8. So 8 Gatorades for $6. Throw those in there. Now, one thing I will say is that anything that you put in your car, you want to cover it with a blanket. Because sunlight on plastic bottles makes them taste terrible.
Yeah, which is why I would create a tote. And when the time comes, I have that tote good and ready. And it's not just, water bottles and Gatorade bottles that are sitting in my car forever, just getting nasty. So, no. So I'd rather have the tote. I like the tote idea.
In colder areas, putting a couple of hand warmers in there will help quite a bit.
Maybe a blanket.
A blanket. I see people I have one of those space blankets. Those kind of work under very specific circumstances, but having an actual blanket is going to go way further. Or, what works even better? Those cheap sleeping bags. They're so much fluffier and nicer than the space blanket. Because you can take a space blanket and then put that over you, and then put the cheap blanket on the cheap.
The space blanket is that Mylar blanket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. The only good thing about those is they hold in 100% heat. It's basically wrapping yourself in a trash bag.
Okay.
Right. So they hold in 100% of the heat. They reflect it in, shiny side in or shiny side out, depending on which way you use it. But I mean, you can do practically the same thing by just getting a very large trash can and a trash bag and lining the inside of your sleeping bag with it and crawling in there. Just either way, if you close your head up, you're going to suffocate. So
don't do it.
Don't do that. 0 out of 10, do not recommend.
Yeah.
So just it's not that difficult. Now, if you're going to let's say you're going to do some preparedness stuff at home, stuff that you should be doing just for general things. Like this winter, they're predicting it to be a really harsh winter.
Yep. And so I don't trust ERCOT here in Texas. So they keep on sending these, real cryptic warnings, and we've gotten like 20 of them within the last month. And I'm like, okay, so what? Are you telling us that the ball's going to drop and that we are going to be out of power? And if that's the case, okay, what's our plan B, right? We're thinking ahead. So I actually, just really abruptly on a Sunday morning, send a link out to all my friends and my family. And I was like, hey, you guys need to buy kerosene heaters, and you need to get some kerosene and just have it on site, have it on hand, just because you never know, it's going to be a cold winter. And everybody's like, good morning to you too, Vanessa.
Well, during Snowvid, which was
it was terrible. It was like 20 degrees. And
it was like 2020, 2021, right? Snowvid.
Yeah.
And we had all those kerosene heaters left over from the farm, and we loaned them out to everybody, and I think we got 2 of them back.
Yeah. I mean, that's okay. It
really helped friends and family.
It really did.
We dropped off the kerosene heater, and these are the big stand-up top ones, right? There are no electronics in them. You just light them, and
please, read the instructions. Be careful. I mean, it's still kerosene and heater and an open flame and stuff in your home, and
I like it. You can cook on top of them.
Yeah, and you can cook on top of them, but just put them somewhere where they're not close to walls. Make sure your kids know to stay away from them. But they are very effective. Oh man, they're amazing. So much heat.
But we dropped one of those off in a 5-gallon can of kerosene to pretty much everybody that needed it, all of our close friends. And they were like, man, that really saved our butts because the power was out for 3 days. It was -20 with like 40-mile-an-hour winds, and they had ice and snow everywhere. But they were like, we were warm, and we were able to make breakfast on top of the thing. And the 5-gallon, they sip fuel. Like 1 gallon of gas, 1 gallon of kerosene. I think we ended up getting 8 to 10 hours out of that. With it on high, putting out like ridiculous amount of BTUs, heating the whole house. So they really do sip fuel. You can turn it down to medium at night, and
start looking into it now before that. And that's the reason that I sent that link out to my friends and family the other day, because it's before the holidays. It's before all the madness and holiday shopping and what have you, right? Bills and things that add up at the end of the year. So I was like, hey, get ahead of the game. Buy one now, so you just store it away, and if the time comes, you have it, and you just have that peace of mind knowing, like, hey, if our power goes out, I can still keep my family warm. Because it was just really, heartbreaking to hear some of the stories where they already had terrible insulation, or they already had, maybe broken windows and stuff already that they were kind of trying to keep warm from. And then when the power went out, people here in Texas were just not prepared. And they died.
Yeah,
like people froze and died. And so it was just very heartbreaking to hear the moms, crying for help, on either the socials or wherever they could to get words out that they're cold and they can't keep their babies warm, and they, the stoves are electric. Oh, our stoves are electric here in Texas, by the way, the majority of the homes now. So a lot of people from up north couldn't understand why we couldn't just turn on the stove and keep warm that way. Well, because we have electric stoves. And so people that weren't ready and weren't expecting that type of storm, it was a really bad scenario for them. So we learned from it.
Yeah, here our houses are built to get rid of heat, not retain heat.
Like right, because it gets so hot in the summer.
It gets hot here. If you took a house from New England and popped it down here, the way that it's built up there, the people would cook to death.
Right.
When it's like 110 or 108 down here, people would die.
Right.
They'd just be like living inside of a car with the windows up. But you take one of our houses and put it up there, and we'll die. Well, because there's just not. The house is designed to radiate heat. here, and so keep
versus
you.
retain it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we didn't have any kind of snow plows or anything like that. So to get supplies to other people, to your family members, you couldn't even do it. You couldn't drive. You were slipping and sliding everywhere. People that did attempt to drive were getting stuck on the highways.
They didn't know how to drive.
They didn't know how to drive in the snow, getting stuck on the highways, started creating accidents. You know, it was just it went from bad to really, really worse.
Me and my partner were the only two people that grew up north and showed up to work. We were the only ambulance.
You should have just stayed home, but no, the world needed you. The city needed you.
We were so busy. But it was taking like an hour to get across town because of just like little fender benders, or people were shoveled their snow into the road, right? And then created big old ice dams.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
You're like, well, we're not getting down that road. Everybody went out there and shoveled.
Yeah.
Like, they took the 6 inches of snow that was on the ground and now made it like 24 inches.
Yeah.
With everybody else, we're not getting down that one. So.
And nobody knew like to weather their pipes, you know?
Yeah.
And so pipes were exploding left and right. People were out of water still days after the fact for like a week. I had friends coming over to shower at our place, you know, because there was just, I mean, things were breaking everywhere. No one knew to weatherize their pipes. No one was expecting that type of storm.
No one knew how to just even let the water run.
Right.
They were letting drip, but when it's negative 20 with a 40-mile-an-hour wind or so, it's actually like negative 60, right?
Yeah.
So drip isn't going to cut it. That just puts ice in the sink. You've got to let them run like a pencil lead thin stream at that point to keep them from freezing up.
Yeah.
And ours never froze up.
No.
Just because we kept it running good.
Mm-hmm.
But we also opened up the bottoms of the cabinets and had the kerosene heaters going and kept them all from freezing. So that kind of stuff, have it in case you do run out of power. Have a alternate way of cooking. You have a barbecue grill, a gas grill outside. You can grill some stuff.
Yeah.
Don't access your refrigerator a million times, your freezer a million times. Americans have this bad habit of every time they walk by the thing, open it up and stare into it like it's going to tell you something you don't know. Like the history.
Like something new is going to magically appear in there.
It knows the secrets of the universe. They just stare at the light there for a minute and then close it and walk off. Right? You don't do that in a power outage. No, have a plan. Get exactly what you need out of there, and that's it. And then close it. Don't let the kids open and close it. Don't play with it. Don't forget and walk away and leave it open, because you only have a certain amount of time with the thermal mass in there before you run out. Now, if it's really cold outside, you always have the opportunity to get snow, put it in a cooler, bring it inside, and now you have a cooler full of ice, basically. Mm-hmm. Don't eat snow.
No.
Don't eat snow. The snow will just it make you really cold. It's not good for you. And also,
people were actually using it. They were melting it down and using it for their toilets,
which is fine.
Yeah.
Melting it down, filtering it, and then drinking it, or melting it down, boiling it, and then drinking it. That all those will work pretty good. I would suggest filtering it, though, so that if it does have anything nasty in it as far as chemicals go, which is sad that we have to think about that kind of stuff these days.
Yep.
But that you can get most of those or all of those out. Having a water filter at the house is not a bad idea. Now, everybody's kind of familiar with what a Berkey filter is, right? I like the Ghetto Berkey. And the Ghetto Berkey is 2 food-grade buckets. So you can get those at Home Depot, Lowe's.
The poor man's Berkey.
The poor man's Berkey, right? And so you buy the Berkey filters, and or the Berkey knockoff filters. But you want the 2 carbon ones and the 2 ceramic ones. And you drill your little holes in the bottom of your bucket number 1. You install your Berkey filters, and you put that on top of bucket number 2. And then you fill it up, and you have a spigot on bucket number 2. And so you just got 5 gallons of water constantly going and constantly filtered. Out of everything's filtered out of it. Now, if you want to go a step further, you can always take it out of your poor man's Berkey and run it through your Brita or your Pure or whatever you want for your regular everyday drinking water. But it's going to be way better than anything you get out of a municipal faucet anywhere in America, just straight through the poor man's Berkey. Yeah. And the poor man's Berkey is going to cost you about $50 to $100 to build. and last. It'll filter several Olympic-sized swimming pools worth of water before you have to do anything with it. And it'll allow you to do all sorts of fun, interesting, exciting things like filter rainwater. So yeah, that's what I'd suggest for that. Let's see, lots of flashlights, rechargeable flashlights. If you have a tool set like Ryobi, we have the battery charging station that has all the little batteries in it. And they always
we love Ryobi. Ryobi sponsor us. But no, we love Ryobi because the batteries are compatible.
Backwards, forwards.
Yeah, backwards, forwards. We have the whole my husband just mentioned. We have the whole charging kit where we're charging several batteries at one time. So we're always doing projects outside too. So it comes in handy when we're just like, hey, give me that drill. Hey, I ran out of battery. I ran out of juice. Give me another battery. And we just have them in rotation. And so that's really smart. And I like that little setup that we have. So everything we buy is Ryobi.
It keeps all 8 of those batteries charged constantly. So you can always pop one into a flashlight. And it lasts forever in the flashlights. Forever and ever and ever in flashlights. They have little handheld flashlights. They have little room flashlights. They have the big giant spotlights. All sorts of good stuff for those. Those work out really well. What are we missing, hon?
This might be a little off topic, or maybe it's another show. I don't know. You tell me. But we were talking about off grid and how we could set our power up and our water up to be completely self-sustaining off grid in case events like this happen, right? Like the whole Snowvid deal or fiasco. We didn't have power. If we did have an off grid power system set up in our home, then we wouldn't have to worry about that. We'd have some power to last a couple of days, and we'd be in a good spot. But if you're considering that, I would highly recommend it. Look into it. Do some research.
Or do one of those, what is it called, solar generator?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The solar generator's cool.
Yeah, those are pretty cool. I would not buy one. Right? No, I'm not disrespecting anybody like Outback Power or any of those other guys that sell those fancy solar generators. Those are way overpriced. Many times overpriced. When you can just get a cheap $40 solar panel, a $20 microinverter, and a couple of wires from Home Depot, and put together with a couple of car batteries that you can buy at Walmart, and do the same thing, right? And be out maybe $200 in a tote, and have a 3 or 4 times bigger than theirs. So one of the batteries that I like LiFePO 4 batteries, the lithium iron phosphate batteries. You can buy the individual cells for about $60. So you can buy the 260 amp hour cells, put 3 for $60. Put 3 of those together, and now you have, let's see, 8, almost 6 kilowatts of power. You have enough to run your refrigerator for 3 days, your air conditioner outside for 18 to 24 hours, your TV, your CPAP, stuff like that for a long time. So those work really, really well. They do charge a little bit slower, so you're going to want like a 100-watt solar panel. Luckily, you can even buy those 100-watt solar panels at Harbor Freight now.
Yeah.
Like the ones with a little stand.
They're more accessible now. I remember before, solar panels were in the thousands, and you're like, oh, yeah, right. We're not going to buy that. But now as I was looking at them, I'm like, wow, times have changed. They've really come down in price. So I would definitely recommend, any off-grid setup that you can put together and have, engineer yourself. My husband was looking at some engineering plans for a total off-grid power setup the other day. And it was cool. It made sense. And the reason I know about, the automatic transfer switches and the UPS and, the generators, the huge generators, is I used to work for a data center. And so our disaster recovery plans and our contingency plans, to keep operating and keep our customers' computers up and running and servers up and running, was critical. And so we had a whole setup engineered, for disaster recovery. And so it was pretty interesting. And so I just learned, like I said, my history is just creating those redundancies in my life as far as my work goes, and it just kind of trickled into my home life. And then I met my husband, and we're just like all about it, all about a plan B.
Speaking of those backup generators, have you seen those I showed you those whole house backup generators?
Yeah.
They kick on with the transfer switch automatically. And everything. Those are cheap.
Yeah.
I thought that those things would be like,
I thought so too. They used to be like
$70,000.
Yeah.
No, man. Home Depot will come and set one up at your house
For like what, $5,000?
$5,000. Run your whole dang house.
And we're not saying that that's just chump change by any means. It's gonna take some savings and stuff, but it's attainable now.
You can finance it through Home Depot.
Or there's that.
It's like $168 a month.
Wow, that's totally worth it.
To have a backup generator it hooks up to a propane tank. So the one that we were looking at was the 22 kilowatt. So the 22 kilowatt Generac generator, hook it up to a 1,000-gallon propane tank. So like the big oval one that sits outside. Mm-hmm. That one will run off of there for 9 days.
Oh wow!
It'll power, and that's at full output. Right, like running with 22 kilowatts. So that's a ton of power. That's way more than the house would need. But at idle, like just running like your air conditioner and your refrigerator, stuff like that, a couple of LED light bulbs in your house.
Is that Generac solar powered or battery powered?
No, it's a generator.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a regular everyday generator.
Okay, gas.
It runs off of the propane. So it comes with a service agreement, so you don't touch it. It has a Bluetooth and it has an app, and you just monitor it from the app. When you buy it, you buy the service agreement with it, and it's like I think $13 a month. They come out and do the oil changes on it. They do.
Oh wow! Filters. So they even do the maintenance on it.
You don't do anything.
Holy crap!
You don't touch it. You don't do anything.
That's amazing.
They come out $5,000, pour you a little slab, pop it down there, hook it up to your propane tank,
done,
and say
done.
Good day.
we're going to get one, and we're going to tell you all about our experience getting one and having one installed, because that's just super cool, and it's, feasible and attainable for us. So we're going to do that.
I think that's
step one.
Doable first before we get crazy with all of our solar and everything else. Because if we do we're not up in the Arctic area like some of our friends. We have friends that are way up there in basically southern Canada.
Kazakhstan?
Yeah. I call anywhere like north of South Dakota. I call that like southern Canada. So we have like a bunch of friends. Anywhere that's touching Canada is southern Canada. So that are way up there in the frozen tundras where they have to fight penguins off to go get their mail.
I hope Deadpool and Trim are listening to this. Right? I really do. What up?
Shut up. But so those guys, when their power goes out, sometimes it can go out for a week. Well, here, we're usually looking at 72 hours, or we're looking at rolling blackouts where it's off for 12 hours, on for 12 hours, or off for 6 hours, on for 6 hours. When it gets super hot, or if it gets like super cold. Remember, down here, everything's electric. We got electric heat for everything, except for our new house. We have wood. We were smart and we bought a wood fireplace for it.
Yes. That was actually on my must-have list.
Yeah.
And you fought me on that, and I was like, no it's a must-have.
I fought you on where you wanted to put it. I wanted to put it in the front room.
I wanted to put it in the front room, and you made me put it in the back room.
No, I wanted to put it. Maybe there was a miscommunication there.
Totally, because I'm going to punch you in the throat right now because you told me the back room. So I fought for it to be in the back room when I wanted it in the front room. But here we are. You're just going to have to. I wanted it in the front
room because it was central to the house and we could have heated the kitchen.
Well, you're just going to have to install. Now you're going to have to install another chimney for me in the front room. Me. So
yeah, it's not
there you go.
Yeah, another one would be great. So, but. So we're looking at 72 hours without power or rolling blackouts. That would probably work out better for us in the short term, having a backup generator than it would as far as overall preparedness, instantaneous preparedness, is having that generator come and plop down, and the propane tank came and installed, and call it a day, right? Mm-hmm. We basically freaking call it a day after that point. So and be good with power.
Yeah.
So power for that, a place to buy solar panels, guys. If you want a really cool place, it's gonna be Santan Solar. It sounds weird as heck, but it's SANTAN solar.com. And what those guys do is they buy a lot of these big companies like Amazon, Google, the municipalities that have like large solar farms, stuff like that. They have contracts to replace their solar panels every 2 to 3 years. They buy those used solar panels and resell them to you on an average of $50 to $60 a piece. And these are like 320 watt solar panels. We were looking at a what was it? It was 28 320 watt solar panels on a pallet with a 2-year warranty. So for I think it was $1,700, and it was like another $250 in freight. So we're looking at $2,000 for, what did that come to? I think it came out to like 7 or 8 megawatts, something like, or like 7 or 8 kilowatts of power, which is constant output, right? When people hear that, they think, oh wow, that's, my house is using 5 kilowatts. What power at any one given time? Well, which is average for an American home. But you get the constant power coming out of those solar panels, and it's not peak power that you're looking at. It's the average power coming off of those. So it works out really, really well. It's more than enough to your house. But if you were looking at those any other place, you're looking at almost $10,000 worth of solar panels. So you get them for a lot cheaper this way. I see what you're trying to Google over there.
Don't you be looking at me. Why do you always look over my shoulder to see what I'm Googling?
You're sitting literally touching me.
Mind your business.
Okay. So what you're looking for, honey, is you're looking for a through-the-window stovepipe insulation.
Through-window stovepipe insulation.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep. So what's that going to do is it allows you to put a wood-burning stove through your window.
Okay.
Like you know how we have a window air conditioner unit?
Yes.
Works exactly the same.
Okay.
So by the way, that's a good prep for some people. Kind of random family time over here, but is you can buy one of those little potbelly wood burning stoves. Sometimes you can find them for cheap at garage sales, estate sales,
thrift
online,
stores, antique stores,
and you can do a through the window install on those. So it's not permanent, but have a wood burning stove in your front room if shake the fan, or if it gets really hot, really cold. If it gets really cold. They work really fast and work really well. You definitely do not want to put those directly on your floor. You're going to want to get some fire brick and some regular brick. Like I'd say those, what do you call those? Those paving stones. Put some paving stones down. Put some fire brick on top of that. Put your wood burning stove on top of that, and then rock and roll. Excuse me. And that'll help you out quite a bit. Firewood is kind of pricey. In certain parts of the world, it's kind of pricey. Other parts of the world, it's super cheap. Here, it is. Everybody wants to sell it as a premium, and they want to sell you like mesquite or oak for barbecue, and you're trying to tell them, no, I want to actually burn it in a fireplace, and they look at you like you're cross-eyed. Well, why'd you want to burn the good barbecue wood? And you're like, I don't need barbecue wood. I need generic wood. That's what I need.
Yeah, always keep I know we don't live up north, but if you're here in South Texas, I'd still recommend keeping like a pile of firewood somewhere, because you just never know, right? Come that day, you're not going to want to be out there in the freezing cold, like chopping wood. You want to have a pile nestled away somewhere that you can access and you could use, and voila.
Preferably not sitting on the ground.
Preferably not sitting on the ground, yeah, because it's got to stay dry.
Yeah, up on a pallet or something, and then covered with something to keep it dry as well. That's going to help you out quite a bit. And you want to put your firewood not against your house. It has a tendency to attract bugs, and you don't want those bugs to go directly in your house.
Yeah.
You want it standing off away.
Yeah. And I know we talked about money earlier and having, some money nestled away in a savings account or something like that, but also having cash in hand. Like put some cash in a little Ziploc bag or a little wallet and put that in your safety can. because you just never know when you're just going to need some cash. I mean, people don't normally carry it around anymore, and it's, when you are in a situation, you're on a pinch, and people are only taking cash, like, you're going to be screwed if you have just your debit card that they're not accepting because power's down. So keep some cash on you at all times. That's always a good
just
idea.
Regular everyday cash. I see all these people all the time trying to I'm gonna put in a roll of silver quarters. Name one time you have been able to go and pay for gasoline with silver quarters. Name one time that you've been able to that in a 48 or 72 hour emergency, you've been able to stroll on down to the corner market, and buy a bag of chips with a silver dime. They're gonna look at you like you're retarded. Don't do that. Like, they're gonna be like, what? They're like, you mean a dime? No. You're gonna be sitting there trying to convince them that dime is worth more than a dime, right? And they're just not gonna believe you. I'm not a big proponent of storing precious metals. I'm just not. I have a couple of them. I have like a roll of silver quarters, but it's more of a novelty to me than it is for anything else. I like it because it's heavy and it looks cool.
I'm always the one that's like, let's buy gold. Let's buy gold.
I'm like, it doesn't. And so here's my thing with buying gold. You are going to be much better off if you have hard goods to trade in a bad
Commodities,
situation.
Yeah.
Commodities, food, salt, medicine, or skills to trade. Because if I'm a baker, all right, and I have a big batch of buttery biscuits, and you come to me and you go, you know what? I see you're a baker. You go through a lot of firewood. I've got a cord of wood. I'm going to give you, and I need a couple of loaves of bread for the next week. And you're like, cool. I will hook your family up with biscuits and bread and stuff like that for the next week because I certainly don't like to chop firewood. If you come to me with a like a Kurgan or silver, or a gold eagle or something like that, and go, I need change, and I'm going to go, for what? I don't accept that. I can't eat it. Nobody else is trading with it. Currency is only as good as everybody else agrees that it's good. At one time, fancy colored seashells were all the rage. At one time, tulip bulbs were all the rage. We just got done watching a documentary where black pepper was all the rage. Black pepper is what sent Columbus around the world. Was looking for black pepper. Yeah? Pretty cool, right? You just got done watching that with me.
Yeah.
So it's like currency is only as good as what everybody agrees it is. And if I do not agree that I am accepting gold, there's not anything you can do about it. Except go, wow, I guess I'll sit over here and eat my gold. Because it doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense. Until everybody starts agreeing and starts accepting currency again, it doesn't matter what currency it is, you're going to have a hard time getting anybody to take any sort of currency, let alone it be gold, let alone it be cash, let alone it be anything else. However, you'll always be able to trade somebody something. You have a family member that's a female that's on her period. You tell me what she won't do for a pack of freaking tampons, or or a pack of the sanitary napkins if she's been out of them for a while, right? I bet you that I get that cord of wood chopped and stacked. I bet you that works out pretty well for me. It sure is. We're gonna work out better for me having just investing in a crap load of tampons that'll work for the gold and silver guy sitting over there LARPing with his fanny pack full of silver going, I sure wish somebody would trade me something.
I was just thinking about like the Prohibition days. Like, okay, what did they do to get by? What did they trade? What was the big commodities? Obviously alcohol.
Well, that's Prohibition
moonshine.
days is different, honey.
Yeah. In my mind, I always think Prohibition. I don't know why.
There was no shortages of anything. There was just that there was artificial shortages of alcohol.
Yeah.
So yeah, alcohol was a big commodity. The area that you need to kind of think about would be the Dust Bowl, which
Dust
was
Bowl. There we go.
just the era before Prohibition, where everything, the food was in a massive shortage, and
Why was that? Was it a drought?
Well, people had gotten these fancy new devices called tractors, and they plowed the shit out of everything. They literally just went ape shit and plowed all the prairie grass under, and to make these big fields to plant wheat and everything else. Well, the wheat missed that year, and there was nothing to hold the dirt in the ground, right? They went into a little bit of a drought, and it became a self-feeding system. All the topsoil blew away, and massive just dust clouds would come through, roll through the Great Plains. They chopped down all the trees, all the scrub, all the buffalo grass, turned it all under, and were planting crops. And during that time, America, right before the Dust Bowl actually hit, America was the number one food producer in the entire freaking world. We just went nuts with the bread, with what's called the bread basket of the world, which was basically us. And we were turning out just, even by today's standards, ridiculous amounts of grain. And that's because it was really easy. We had these fancy new devices called tractors. And you could pretty much blame the Dust Bowl on the Ford 8N tractor. It was because of the same tractor that's around today. I've shown you the pictures of them. They're the gray ones with the red, red highlights on them. Because they were cheap, they worked really well. They had a bazillion accessories, and with one tractor, you could do the same amount of work as 2 or 3 teams of horses, and in a quarter of the time. So you went from one family being able to barely handle 40 acres to where one family is plowing 300 acres. And every family next to them is plowing 300 acres. And everybody's just plowing living crap out of everything and then looking over at each other and going, my, this is cool. Fields of wheat as far as the eye can see. And then they had a drought. And they plowed everything under, all the stubble under. There was nothing holding in the moisture in the ground. There was nothing holding the dirt down, and it all blew away. And we're still recovering from that. Part of the recovery process from the Great Depression was where they started contouring the land. And if you drive, when we're driving, even now, when we're driving along, you see just like random rows of trees, like in the middle of nowhere, like following roads. Those were all planted during the Dust Bowl in order to slow the wind down as it goes across the fields. That makes sense. Right? And you see the fields now have contours in them where they're kind of wavy from back to instead of perfectly flat. That's to slow the water down so the water drains into the field instead of just runs right to straight off. So we learned a lot of what not to do.
Yeah.
Part of it was a little impromptu history lesson. Maybe they'll appreciate it. Maybe they'll maybe like you, where it's like, what do you call it?
I call my husband Buzz Killington because sometimes I just do not want to know like what the acronym. What was it? It was scuba. He's like, do you know that that's an acronym? And I'm like, we're getting ready to go to the beach. Like, I'm already drinking. Like, we're already, like, I'm having fun. He's giving me
I was a designated driver.
Yeah, he's of course.
Because I was fishing.
He's giving me a lesson on, what the acronym for scuba means. And I was just like, oh, can I just have, like, those 5 seconds back? Like, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know if I have enough memory, like, hard drive space to remember that and to care. But it was just funny.
I hate that I know that now.
I hate that I know that now. Yeah, I forgot. We were at a work event and somebody's like, oh, yeah. He's like, they started... It was actually my boss, and he started talking about the genetics of oranges, and he looks over at me, he's like, but you know all about that, right? And I'm like, yeah, and I hate that I do. Like, let's not talk about this right now. Don't put me, Johnny, on the spot. But yes, I do know these things because my husband, we talk all the time, and he's always teaching me stuff, and so I know all this.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, but during that time, they, a dime. Like I have a 1919 dime, and that represented an entire family's full year's worth of savings.
Wow.
Is that 1919 dime?
Wow.
Yeah, 1 penny, a week might be all they bring in. So they ended up, what some of the cool things that ended up happening is the government started mandating that they use flour sacks, like the flour the government, the flour the government was giving away, as part of the rations, were made with fancy floral prints, and people were sewing their clothes out of the flour sacks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you look at pictures from back then, you see the old flapper dresses and stuff like those, and how they always had like little flower prints. Those are all sewn out of
flower bags.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Flower bags.
Okay.
So yeah, it's pretty neat. But some of the things they did a lot of trade.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Did
like
a lot of trade. And they did a lot of trade of goods, of services. They did a lot of trading of work from one group to another.
Yeah, I can see that.
They did a lot of trading of livestock because it became very difficult to feed the livestock. So, because they had these huge bunches of what was bad is that the plowing actually disrupted the locusts' life cycle, and while they were plowing, they were artificially keeping the locusts down. When they ended up stopping the plowing when it just became not profitable to farm, and it killed everything, died off, and the Dust Bowl happened, that the locusts came back and ate everything that wasn't basically
but
they came back in massive droves.
Wow.
And I mean, they were chewing on the window seals on houses to try to get inside. So absolutely crazy. Just not any sort of fun. 0 out of 10. Do not recommend. 0 out of 10. Lots of really cool stuff that went on there. If you want to look further into the history of the Dust Bowl, there is a bunch of really cool YouTube videos. There's a bunch of really good books and magazine articles. Can't name any of them right off the top of my head. This is just information that I've randomly got stored in my head from years of Googlating, and it's been quite a while since I Googlated the Dust Bowl, probably several years. But yeah, so if you look back through history, things that have always retained value have always been things like seeds, food, stored goods, canning, jars, fats, meats.
Freeze-dried foods. That would retain value.
They didn't have freeze-dried foods.
Now they're going to. So this is going to be a new Dust Bowl.
You just love your freeze-dried.
I really do. I really do.
So back to your regularly scheduled preparedness episode, as that things that you can definitely do that if you need to be able to trade for something on the road, is have some extra stuff. If somebody's kids got allergies, having some allergy medicine, having a couple extra things of tampons or pads, they're gonna just really go a long ways. Really go a long ways. Analgesics like Tylenol, Motrin, ibuprofen, naproxen, all those kinds of stuff. They're really cheap right now. Nobody's gonna be making it.
Yeah.
If anything bad happens. What else you got, lady? Because I've got a bunch of news stories.
Yeah, so do I. Well, I have one that I was like, so this worries me, guys. Like, I just feel like the more I've talked about this on one of the episodes where, they're buying up all the farmland, and they're, making homes and shopping centers and what have you. But then they're also reducing like our ability to create food sources. So I just read this story out of China that China says GMO soy and corn trials show outstanding results. So genetically modified food is being favored now, and I'm concerned. I've watched one too many movies. I saw The Matrix. Like, I know where this is going.
Well, I mean, it depends on what are they putting into it. All right, because if they're putting like cow DNA, I'm okay with that. But if they're putting in like pesticides, so it makes pesticides and stuff like that, not a big deal with it. I would eat an ear of corn that had beef flavor built right into it. But
of course, this article doesn't say what they put in it. But
an ear of corn like the BT corn, right? Not really a big fan of 50. It's designed to kill life. Eating it. Did you see the experiment where they took the BT corn and the regular everyday corn, and they put two different bowls of it next to outside, to see what the squirrels favored, and the squirrels wouldn't even touch the freaking GMO.
Yeah,
thing.
see, that's the problem. Like, if squirrels aren't even touching it,
And squirrels are assholes.
Yeah, they will. And I mean, especially when they're in survival mode. So you're telling me this
even if they're not,
a squirrel wouldn't even eat that. Like, I mean, that's telling you right there. Like, I am not touching that. Like, just be cognizant of what you're putting in your bodies. Like, stay away from GMO products. I'm just worried that one day that they're going to supersede like natural organic products.
Oh, we'll see that in our life.
Yeah.
We'll see that.
It just worries me. So get your gardens going. Start getting that green thumb going. Exercise your green thumb.
Yeah.
My husband didn't, he can grow anything, but he wasn't always like that.
No.
There was a period where it was a, trial by, he would try it, he would fail, he would try again. And that's just the way it went.
I found that benign neglect works the best. Everybody tries too hard to grow things, and they love it to death.
Overwater.
They do.
They really overwater, and they don't understand.
Overwatering, overworking soil, overworking just
like Elmira.
Everything.
I'm gonna love you and hug
they
you.
Love their shit to death. They really, really do.
Yeah.
If you go out in the forests are messy, and you just kind of want to do that. Like, if you notice, there's no bare soil in the forest, right? There's always a layer of something on top of the soil.
Yeah.
Whether it's leaves or mulch or something else. So mulch the shit out of your stuff.
Yep.
And you'll pretty much grow whatever you want. There's no reason to get super pretty with it. Just throw it on there, poke a hole, put your plant in, and then benign neglect. That means when it looks sad, give it some water. Other than that, leave it alone.
Yeah. And it's good to stress your plants, especially when you're trying to grow peppers. That's what creates the heat in the pepper, the spice. So stressing them on and off, like stressing them to the point where they're like, give me water, and then you water them, and
that's also what makes melons sweet.
Yeah. And it just makes it that much better. So benign neglect is the way to go. And I'm a fan of getting, growing crops that are easy to grow.
Yeah.
I'm not, super meticulous where I'm out there. Like, I've seen some people where their lawns look like they cut them with scissors, and that's just not my speed.
No.
I have we have a lawnmower riding lawnmower. Historically, we've always had a riding lawnmower. So, I mean, I get by with that, but I mean, I
measure how much grass you're cutting in beers.
Yeah, exactly.
That looks like a 3-beer cut right there.
I'm more of a margarita girl, so But anyway, so that was just concerning when I read that news story. It just rubbed me the wrong way. I'm like, ugh, I've seen this movie before, I'm like, if our food is now, heavily genetically modified, like, what is that going to do to us? It's going to have, the cancer,
again,
like
if it's designed, if they're putting animal DNA in it, it's not a big deal, because I eat animal DNA all the time, right? I don't care.
But do they disclose that on their products?
No, nobody's putting animal DNA in it. That'd be too cool.
Yeah, that would be too cool.
No, what they're doing, what they're doing though, is they're putting bacterial DNA into the corn or the products that they're encoding it specifically to where that bacteria is releasing its defense hormones, its defense mechanisms. So, like, we do that in giant brew vats. We have trained E. coli through genetic modification to go ahead and poop out amoxicillin, right, or penicillin, or any other types of things. So we have done that on a massive level. They're doing that now with corn and tomatoes and peppers and everything else, except instead of amoxicillin, they're making them produce insecticides and fungicides and things like that. My problem with that is that if you read the label on all that crap, it says, don't eat it. Don't drink me. You will die. And or it causes cancer and all this other stuff. And they're like, oh, no, it's fine because it's inside the corn. Well,
yeah.
If you're not able to eat it when it's on the outside of the corn, why can you suddenly eat it if it's on the inside? It's because you can't see it. Yeah. It's got, meeple or whatever. But, like, yeah, if they're going to make strawberries that, like have salmon DNA, just make them redder, whatever. I don't care. But, like, if they're going to make, tobacco, like, what is it? The tobacco, that one's been around a long time. They added tobacco genes to tomatoes. And that sounds weird, right? but they ended up making tomatoes that would produce a little bit of nicotine. And nicotine is a massively oppressive insecticide. But which was okay, but now they have these highly addictive tomatoes.
I'm like, what? I really thought you were joking when you said tobacco. I'm like, this is BS.
No. It was a real thing.
Wow.
Actually, that was quite a long time ago. That they ended up with tomatoes that have nicotine in them now, so you can get your buzz off your ketchup. But
wow, it's like the Marlboro Man.
That kind of thing, questionable. But definitely not where they're making them make Roundup and stuff like that, so they kill off everything around them. That kind of thing, guys, it's really not super good for us. We just need to go kind of the opposite direction that we're heading with all of it. So, in other news, what do you got? I have that Haiti is attempting to collapse for the 43rd time, I guess. Haiti's always on the brink of collapse. So everybody says, don't travel to Haiti because Haiti's collapsing. That's great. North Korea is firing ballistic missiles at everybody again. Russia's killing off the Wagner Group people in a suspicious plane crash. It's like, I mean, if it wasn't the poison in the water that got the Wagner guy, if it wasn't the bomb in the carry-on luggage, it was the missile that suspiciously launched that got that guy. Yeah, that's about all there for that. Like in world news. World news sucks as usual. So, all right, here's one that's not very good. Is Iowa State veterinarians are researching unusual strain of swine bacteria. So, a new series of... I'm going to try to say it. Actinobacillus pleuropneumoniae. It's a type of pneumonia. It's not supposed to be really transmittable very easily from hog to hog and like from area to area. However, this one has mutated and now is highly transmittable and jumping from hog to hog and everything like that. It's got a herd mortality between about 50% up to 70%. It's not good. It's killing off hogs. However, it's pretty easily treatable with antibiotics if you catch it on time. But if they're already like super symptomatic, it's pretty much over for that hog. So not really pretty cool for those guys. So that's something to watch coming up. It might mess with our supply of food, like the supply of bacon. And nobody messes with the supply of bacon, right? That's just inhumane. Bacon is life. Bacon is all.
Bacon is always my favorite part of breakfast.
Also coming out of Iowa is that they are having an outbreak of bird flu, which is great.
I feel like we get an outbreak of bird flu like every other year.
Yeah, but it's in the commercial egg production area, and so they're having to put down all the egg layers, which is not super big deal. I mean, it might influence egg prices a little bit, but overall, chickens mature so quickly. There's very little lag. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, what's going on to
plant of the day? Well, speaking of which, we just talked about strawberries.
Yeah, the plant of the day is going to be Sequoia Strawberry.
They're getting so expensive now, just strawberries in general.
Right? So, what they have to say over at Stark Brothers about the Sequoia Strawberry. Stark Brothers.
We love you, Stark Brothers.
Sponsor us! So, it's an early maturing variety growing on excellent dessert quality fruit without the weight. Medium height plants develop vigorous runners for increased berry production. Large glossy berries are plump and juicy with long conic shapes. Flavor is outstandingly sweet and subacid with high pleasing aromatic qualities. Developed by the University of California and produced in 1972, disease resistant to leaf spot, cold hardy, ripens in June and may bear into fall. They're self-pollinating. Something to watch on this is when they're talking about it being vigorous runners. That means this little guy will spread throughout your entire growing area.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you are growing it in troughs or in raised beds or something, but it's going to take over whatever you put it in.
Yeah. Just remember like those safeguards when you have really invasive plants, they're bully. I call them the bullies. Like they just bully everyone.
Oh yeah, this guy will be a bully, but a delicious one.
Yeah.
Right. I would plant this guy in troughs, like trough type stuff. Trough type propagation. But yeah, they're really not that expensive. They're looking like these guys get about. They need like a foot by a foot area. Fruit size is large to extra large, so they're really, really cool. Like it, love it. Let's get a bunch of them. So, other than that, the tree of the day is going to be your Franklin cider apple tree. A lot of times people overlook cider apples. And one of the cool things you can do about with cider apples is like any apple that you grow you don't like, ferment it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I had a bunch of people. Actually, somebody hit us up on the Discord. They were talking about how their neighbor grew a bunch of. It was on Reddit. Their neighbor had bought a bunch of these ornamental apple trees, and then they started pumping out a bunch of apples. But he's like, the apples are kind of mealy and sour, and I was like, perfect, make cider. Right. The more sour or complex or acidic the fruit is, the better it's going to be for cider. And one thing, if you have an apple, if you buy an apple at the store and plant the seeds from it, you're going to get something. You're going to get some type of apple. Apples are not simple in how they pass genetics on to each other. It's kind of a crapshoot. When they're looking for a new variety of apple, they plant tens of thousands of apple seeds. And like they grow them and like within they do super, super high intensity grow where they're just like a foot or so apart. They grow thousands and thousands of them in fields, thousands and thousands per acre in fields. And then they wait until they get mature and produce their first couple of fruits. Then they test those fruits. These ones suck, turn to barbecue wood. This one sucks, turn to barbecue wood. So forth and so on until they come across a winner. When they come across that winner, they clear out all the trees around it, let that one grow like crazy, then start selling bud wood and cuttings and stuff off of it to produce it everywhere else. So let's talk about this Franklin cider apple. It's a truly game-changing cider apple. They say if you enjoy making homemade cider, this apple can be the star in a great blend. All of the necessary attributes are contained in this one bitter sharp variety. It has high sugar, high tannins, which create a dry finish, and high acidity, which gives cider a nice tang. This long-lived tree produces up to 30 bushels of apple per year and makes 2.74 gallons of juice per bushel. That's a lot of juice. You got about 100 gallons of juice off of one tree per year.
That is a lot of juice.
That'll do, donkey.
Yeah.
That'll do. The fruit ripens successively and hangs well on the tree, which shows good resistance to apple scab and cedar apple rust. A boon for deer hunters, this apple is very attractive to wildlife. A glint capped cider and Perry competition bronze winner in 2017, and the likely successor to Kingston Black. The cider apple gold standard. Cold, hardy to negative 32 degrees. So, man, that thing's a beast. Ripens in early to mid-October. Pollinator required. Choose another variety of whatever the heck. Pretty cool. That's a nice one. I would probably have a couple of those. One thing about like apples is I pretty much just completely ignore chill hour requirements on apple trees. Apple trees don't care. Like,
are you saying the apple trees or the honey badger?
Apple trees, honey badger. Yeah, apple trees apple tree don't care. Like you see people like, oh, this thing needs 1,200 chill hours to produce fruit. Nah, it's just not going to produce fruit for like 2 years. Then it'll adapt and it'll be fine. I've seen some of the subarctic, like the super cold apples that produce just fine here in Texas.
What would cause an apple tree to stop producing and then start producing again? Because I remember some seasons. Okay.
Yeah. They have on-year, off-years. All fruit trees do. They do boom and bust years. They're called mast years.
That makes sense because there was times where we had a plethora of apples, and then there was times where I barely got a couple.
So yeah, they're called mast years, and that's what the nut people use to call like years where the nut trees just go absolutely crazy and put just wheelbarrows and wheelbarrows.
Yeah.
Fill up the back of your truck. Just sit your truck underneath the dang thing and shake the tree, and it fills your truck up.
I like the idea of having nuts, but they're just so caustic. At least the pistachios are, which are my favorite. They're just so caustic to harvest. And,
pistachios produce urushiol.
Yeah.
The same stuff that's in the poison ivy and poison oak.
Mm-hmm.
It'll beat you and kick your butt.
Yeah.
But
anyway.
Yeah, you don't want to even stand underneath one of those trees after it's rained because it drips on you and burns your skin.
Same thing with fig trees. The leaves are pretty caustic, so do not stand under fig trees when it's raining. And do not rub your eyes after picking fig trees. The latex is kind of aggressive. Yeah, so I made the mistake of I was harvesting fig trees and I rubbed my eyes and it burned, and I was literally across like the garden, and so I had to like bolt to the restroom, rinse my eyes out. I mean, I felt like I got maced. It was so bad.
Yeah, I learned. Super friendly.
Yeah.
Apple trees and just like fruit trees and nut trees and stuff like that in general, because they produce some every year. And then some years they produce a bunch. It's a reproduction strategy that if they get all together and everybody produces a ridiculous amount, something's going to live. Does that make sense?
Right.
Something will eventually make it through. And that's how mast years work. And they try to overwhelm the local population of whatever type of critters munching on them. So, yeah. But if you have an excess of fruit, you do not have an excess of fruit. You have not enough jam, jelly, or alcohol.
Exactly.
Or
freeze-dried.
Or freeze-dried food. Yeah.
I love freeze-dried apples. Those are so good. And those are my daughter's favorite. She loves them.
They're kind of weird texture. They're kind of like styrofoam.
It's okay. I like it. It's fun. I don't know.
But, they're really, really cool. I think that's, I really just kind of wanted to get people thinking about some of their own preparedness. Yeah. And we specifically kind of shied away from the guns and knives and all that kind of stuff on this episode, because we're more talking about what happens in the storm. You need to be able to grab your stuff and go.
Yeah.
Right. What happens with there's an earthquake. You need to grab your stuff and go. You don't need to go full roof Korean. Yeah. Right? And jump up there on your roof and try to protect it from everything. That's what you have insurance for, guys. And your life's not worth the big screen TV. Staying at home and trying to save your big screen TV. Take a picture of it so that you can have
I like that tactic. I'll just take a picture of everything. And everything can be replaced, but your life, your family's life.
That's what you have insurance for.
Yeah.
And insurance is cheap.
Yeah.
If you're not in, Florida for flood insurance in Florida is very expensive. And that's because they get flooded every freaking year.
And they know it. So, prepare for it then.
But if you live somewhere that doesn't normally flood, you're not in a flood zone.
Right.
Flood insurance is $20 a year. It's cheap. Breaking and entering insurance or theft insurance, stuff like that. If you don't live in downtown Chicago, it's cheap. Fire insurance. If you don't live in somewhere that burns down every 2 months, it's cheap. So getting some insurance on your house, your property, and your goods, and then over-insuring, if you can buy just a blanket policy for $500,000, go for it. Get it. Make sure that you can replace everything in your house. Right?
Yeah, agreed. And, specifically we wanted to have this episode because of, the Hurricane Idalia over in Florida and the Carolinas, and Georgia. Our thoughts are with you guys. Hope you stay safe. Hope this podcast helps you, just think outside the box and, prepare for other hurricanes if you decide to stay or just even now. Don't stay.
It's not worth it.
Yeah. I meant if you decide to continue living in an area that's prone to having hurricanes, then just prepare for them.
Just having a bug out. Tell your if your boss or whatever is going to be a dick about it and be if you leave, then you're going to get fired. Put that in writing. Put it in writing. Boss, go ahead and put it in writing that if I leave to save my family and my life a day or two before a hurricane, that I'm going to get fired.
Yeah.
That's great. I will see
I
you
wouldn't
in
want to
court.
work there anyway.
Yeah, but I'll see you in court, and I think I'm going to buy a new boat.
And I will use it for my next hurricane.
I will use it to leave to bug out for the next hurricane.
Exactly.
It'll be our bug out boat.
Exactly.
We'll just leave a week early.
Yeah.
And go somewhere where there's not the hurricane.
Yeah. So we're really picking up on listeners. Super exciting. Specifically from Israel. I got much love for Israel. I got a lot of peeps out there, my homies. So yeah, love you guys. Thanks for supporting us on our show. We have new listeners from India. So that's cool. Singapore is getting up there. United States, obviously, it's grown quite a bit since we first started. Australia is growing some more.
Surprisingly, India.
Yeah.
Shout out India.
Like, super rad. If you guys have any suggestions for our next show, feel free to email us. Let us know. We're always happy to hear those.
We got to do our normal plugs, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if you want to go ahead and throw a couple dollars to the show, it'll go straight to keeping the show on the air and just paying for the bandwidth and everything else we use. You can do that by going for the Venmo. It's going to be at ThisFeralLife. And you can do the Cash App will be $ThisFeralLife. Our email is going to be ThisFeralLifePodcast@gmail.com. You can go ahead and send us some love letters, hate mail. If you want to be on the show, it's perfectly fine. We'd love to have some callers in on the show to talk about what preparedness means to them.
I am so interested to get the owner of Waffle House on this show. Like, I am so in awe about his preparedness. So
let's make this happen.
Yeah, let's make this happen. Let's do this. Let's talk to people.
About the history of why he started the Wafflehouse Index.
Yeah.
There's got to be a story there. Right? There's got to be like just one day he's like, you know what? I'm gonna own this. I'm gonna own this storm. And then just started taking over.
I just have a whole new perspective and respect for Waffle House. So you guys are super cool.
House.
Yeah, Waffle House. All right.
All right, guys. Check out our Etsy if you want to get any sort of really cool, sweet merch. We have a lot of cool looking stuff over there. It's going to be ThisFeralLife at .etsy.com. Sorry about that. And that's about that it. You usually try to say something semi-positive every time.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't done that in a minute, but I'm all for it.
Go for it.
You go first.
No, I always try to throw you under the bus.
Always.
Oh.
Okay. Well, in a time of a natural disaster, I mean, nothing speaks more than community. That speaks volumes. Take care of each other. Watch out for each other. Have each other's back. Don't be a douche and looting and doing all that, ridiculous stuff. We're here to be good to each other. So keep that in mind and look out for each other.
If you, something comes to me, if you have a friend that's being involved in a natural disaster, open your house up to them. Give them a safe place to go.
A dry place to go.
A safe, dry place to go for a couple of days. I'm not saying let them move in there permanently forever and always, but if they need to get away from, the hurricane for 3 or 4 days, go ahead, let them crash on your sofa. Make it a party. It'll be fun. I would, personally, if I had friends who were coming over, I'd take some paid vacation time, and we'd have one hell of a rager. It would be a great time. We'd have a party. I'd be like, let me show you around Texas. And we'd go have a bunch of fun.
We really don't have a rager. We really don't drink that much, but we do adventure. So anything to do something cool and to explore a city, we're always down. So
yeah.
With that being said, I bid you adieu. I am exhausted. I love you guys. I am tired.
We love our listeners. Thank you guys so much for listening to us and tuning in every week.
At This Feral Life.